The adrenaline was still pumping through my veins as Bastian and I hurried down the bustling streets of Manhattan. We needed to get off the grid, and fast. They can't be tracking us. We don't have any devices on us, I said, glancing over my shoulder. Bastian nodded, limping beside me.
Let's withdraw a lot of cash, pick up a couple of burner phones from the electronics store up ahead, and get out of here before they pinpoint the ATM.
He said, his eyes scanning the storefronts. A few minutes later, we emerged with 2 new iPhones and a handful of change. It wasn't much, but it would have to do.
Where to now?
Bastian asked, pocketing his new phone. I thought for a moment. The library. The Stephen A. Schwartzman building. It's big, public, and easy to blend in. We can access the internet and do some research there.
Aren't we on the run from librarians?
I shrugged. I mean, they're not the ones trying to kill us. Bastian sighed heavily.
No, they are just trying to annihilate all men.
Then he bowed dramatically.
Okay, lead the way.
As we approached the imposing marble facade of the library, I felt a sense of awe. The Beaux-Arts architecture was breathtaking, with its grand arches, intricate sculptures, and the iconic lion statues guarding the entrance. For a moment, I forgot about the danger we were in, and allowed myself to be swept up in the grandeur of it all. Inside, we made our way to the Rose main reading room, a grandiose space with long oak tables and ornate chandeliers. The room was quiet, save for the occasional turning of a page or the soft footsteps of the librarians. We found a secluded spot in the corner and huddled around one of the old desktop computers. As Bastian searched the library's catalog, I pulled out the Voynich and the gadfly and began to decipher Hathaway's notes on the elixir recipe. Listen to this. The recipe contains a potent mix of psychedelics, including poppies for opium, ergot fungi, which grows on barley and has compounds similar to LSD, and a bunch of other herbs I've never heard of. Bastian's eyes widened.
Whoa, a concoction worthy of Pablo Escobar.
As I continued working on the translation, Bastian pulled up a search engine and started digging for information.
Hey, check this out,
he said, pointing to the screen.
A study from 2019 by some guy named Griffiths of Johns Hopkins University. It says that people who took psychedelics reported encounters with benevolent, intelligent, sacred, eternal, and all-knowing entities. Half of them even described it as a mystical experience.
I rolled my eyes. Of course they saw God. I bet they also saw the Wicked Witch of the West. They were tripping on a cocktail of dangerous hallucinogens. It's not exactly a reliable source of information, is it? Bastian shrugged.
I don't know, Rosie. Maybe there's more to it than that.
I sighed, rubbing my temples. This whole thing is a career killer. If my editor finds out I'm chasing down some ancient psychedelic recipe, I'm finished. Bastian put a hand on my shoulder.
Hey, don't think like that. This is a real story. In fact, it might be the story of a lifetime.
I gave him a small smile, then turned my attention back to the computer. Something about the recipe tickled at the back of my mind. Poppies. Opium. It's all connected. Then I remembered the Minoan poppy goddess, the idol of a Bronze Age civilization that thrived on the island of Crete over 3,000 years ago. A quick search through the library catalogs, and we requested every book on the subject. Bastian, look at this, I said, pointing to a series of photos of colorful Minoan frescoes from Knossos in one of the books. The women are depicted in positions of power, while the men are shown serving on them, wearing these bizarre codpieces and jewelry. Bastian leaned in, a grin spreading across his face.
Ha! It's like the Chippendales. I don't know if I could pull off that look.
I stifled a laugh and kept turning the pages. Something caught my attention, and I squinted my eyes trying to figure it out. One of the servers wore something on his wrist, a round object that could be a clock face or something. I shook my head, discarding the idea. It was probably just a piece of jewelry. Then, as I turned the page, I saw it. A statue of a bare-breasted goddess, her arms outstretched, 2 serpents in her grasp. The snake goddess, I breathed. Apparently, she was a major deity in the Minoan pantheon, often depicted holding snakes, which were symbols of wisdom and renewal. As I read on, my excitement grew. The Minoans had a remarkably advanced society for their time, with a strong focus on women in religious and political roles. But maybe there was a darker side to their culture as well.
Amalia, listen to this.
Bastian said, his voice trembling slightly as he read from another book.
Archaeologists found thousands of clay figurines at peak sanctuaries around Crete, mostly animals and male figures that had been deliberately broken and smashed. They think it might have been part of some kind of ritual.
Bastian's face paled.
That's messed up. Why would they do that?
I shrugged. I don't know, but Elizabeth's notes seem to allude to it.
But there's more. They found this statue called the Palaikastro Kouros. It was a young male figure, burned and mutilated, with its genitals removed. 2 holes in his crotch left to tell the tale.
Bastian shuddered.
I'm telling you, Rosie, this is starting to sound like some kind of man-hating religious cult. We need to be careful.
Oh dear, a statue broken and burned. What a crime, I mocked. Don't jump to conclusions. We don't have all the facts yet. Just then, a flicker of movement caught my eye. A man was browsing the shelves nearby, his gaze lingering just a little too long in our direction. I felt a prickle of unease run down my spine. Bastian, I whispered, nodding towards the man. I think we're being watched. He glanced over, then back at me.
Okay, don't panic, just keep researching. We need to figure out our next move.
I took a deep breath and turned back to the pile of books. As I scanned my eyes through the images of ancient frescoes and shattered figurines, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the brink of something huge. Hey, look at this, I said. It was a photo of a terracotta sculpture of Ceres, the Roman counterpart of Demeter. In her hands, she held a bundle of wheat and poppies, with serpents twining around her arms. Ceres, Demeter, the Minoan poppy and snake goddesses, they all lead to some kind of hallucinogenic sacrament. Bastian's eyes widened.
A man-bashing ritual.
I ignored his antics. I'm certain the Eleusinian mysteries were a continuation of the matriarchal Minoan tradition. The snake goddess, the poppy seeds, the focus on powerful female figures. It's all there. Bastian ran a hand through his hair.
Okay, so we've got an ancient cult that used psychedelic drugs to commune with their gods.
But that doesn't prove the existence of a super-advanced matriarchal society capable of parthenogenesis, I added.
Part of what?
Virgin birth, I replied. Regina mentioned it when we first met.
See? They are trying to end us.
Bastian said, gesturing dramatically.
In her letter, Dr. Hathaway quoted the accounts of Plutarcho and some other dude called, Elio, I think. I remember the quotes mentioned words like most atrocious and luminous and terrible things, panic, shivers, and sweat. These were men describing the said mysteries.
I chewed my lip, thinking. Was there any other information in Hathaway's letter? Suddenly, Bastian snapped his fingers.
The coordinates! I just remembered in Hathaway's letter she mentioned the coordinates of where she was heading next. The longitude was 23.525, and the latitude was, somewhere in the 30s.
I pulled up Google Maps on the computer and started entering the numbers. 23.525 longitude, that's easy enough. But the latitude? Let's scan the map and see what comes up. As I hit enter, the map zoomed in on the Aegean Sea. Then, I made an educated guess and clicked on Elefsina, where the Eleusis archaeological site is located. Checkmate. Eleusis is precisely located at that longitude, I breathed. Of course. That's where the mysteries were held. Bastian leaned in, excitement sparking in his eyes.
That's it, Rosie. That's where Hathaway is heading. We need to get there.
Just then, a loud bang echoed through the reading room. Bastian and I jumped, our hearts racing. A group of men in suits burst through the doors, weapons badly concealed. Panic surged through me. They had found us, but how? Bastian grabbed my hand, his face set with determination.
Rosie, do you trust me?
I nodded weakly, my throat too tight to speak.
Then follow my lead.
He reached into his pocket and pulled out his new phone, typing madly. Don't log in with your credentials, you fool, I warned. They'll track us. I quickly realized the pointlessness of my words. They were on to us despite every precaution. Seconds later, he held it up with one hand while keeping a firm grip on me with the other.
Hey there, my loyal hamsters,
he said, his voice ringing out through the library.
Bastian Ham here. coming to you live from the New York Public Library. I'm here with the lovely and talented Amalia Rose, and boy, do we have a story for you.
I stared at him in disbelief. He was live streaming? Now, of all times? The men hesitated, confused by this sudden turn of events. Bastian took advantage of their momentary distraction and pulled me towards the exit.
That's right, folks.
He continued, his voice echoing off the walls.
We're investigating the groundbreaking findings of Dr. Emily Hathaway, and let me tell you, it's a doozy. Ancient man-hating societies, crazy drug-fueled parties, and a secret cabal trying to keep it all under wraps.
I stumbled along behind him, my mind reeling. Bastian, what are you doing? He grinned, the camera still trained on his face.
Saving our skins, Rosie. If the FBI wants to come after us, they'll have to do it in front of 250,000 witnesses.
I glanced down at the screen and saw that he was right. The viewer count was climbing rapidly, with comments and questions flooding in from all over the world.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds like some kind of crazy conspiracy theory. But trust me, my friends, the truth is stranger than fiction. Amalia and I have seen the evidence with our own eyes, and let me tell you, it's enough to blow your mind.
I finally found my voice, pushing my face in front of the camera. What Bastian means, I interjected, is that we've uncovered some fascinating historical records that suggest the existence of advanced prehistoric societies with a strong emphasis on women in positions of power. It's a remarkable discovery, but we need to be cautious about drawing conclusions without further research. Bastian flashed an enormous smile.
Always the skeptic, eh, Rosie? But that's what I love about you. You keep me honest.
I felt my cheeks flush, and I was suddenly very aware of the hundreds of thousands of eyes watching us.
The point is,
Bastian said, turning back to the camera,
Ms. Rose and I are committed to following this story wherever it leads. And if something happens to us, well, let's just say it won't be an accident. We've been hunted and shot at, no kidding. The FBI, the feminist Illuminati, whoever's behind this, they can't stop the truth from coming out.
He paused for effect, then winked at the camera.
Oh, and if friends watching this happen to be in New York, could you swing by my place and check on my cat? I left her some food, but you know how needy she can be.
Bastian, I snapped, yanking him towards the door. Focus! He laughed, letting me pull him along.
All right. Anyway, you heard it here first, folks. The Voynich Mysteries Decoded, coming soon to a library near you. Bastian Ham, signing off.
With that, he ended the stream and pocketed his phone, just as we burst out of the library and into the crisp evening air. I whirled on him, my heart still pounding. Are you insane? You could have gotten us killed back there. Bastian shrugged, that infuriating grin still plastered across his face.
But I didn't, did I? Come on, Rosie, you have to admit that was pretty badass.
I opened my mouth to argue, but something stopped me. He was right. As reckless and foolhardy as it was, his impromptu live stream had bought us the time we needed to escape. And with the eyes of the world now watching, the FBI would have to think twice before making any overt moves against us. Fine, I said, trying to keep the reluctant admiration out of my voice. You've still got a lot to answer for. Feminist Illuminati? Are you kidding me? For all I know, you could be working for the FBI, planting misinformation.
I mean, as we learned today, they have reasons to worry about what the Voynich Manuscript will uncover. I'm still pretty shaken about that castrated statue.
I looked straight into his eyes and asked, Are you working with them? With the FBI? He released an exasperated sigh.
How can you even ask that?
He said, throwing his hands in the air quite dramatically. I nodded, pushing aside my doubts. We had come too far together, for better or worse. A deep, authoritative voice cut through the air.
Ms. Rose.
We spun around, coming face to face with a tall, broad-shouldered man in his 60s. His steely blue eyes, framed by a shock of silver blonde hair, locked onto mine with an intensity that sent a chill down my spine. He took a deliberate step forward, his imposing presence forcing me to crane my neck to meet his gaze. Bastian, sensing the man's threatening demeanor, swiftly positioned himself between us, his arm outstretched to maintain a safe distance.
Back off, buddy.
The man barely acknowledged Bastian's presence, his piercing gaze never wavering from my face.
You have no idea what you're meddling with. We have the power to destroy your credibility, to turn your Hyperborea misinformation campaign into a laughingstock. You'll be lucky to find work writing tabloid horoscopes.
He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that was somehow more menacing than a shout.
Consider this your final warning. Drop the story, or we'll make sure you rue the day you set your eyes on the Voynich.
Who the hell are you, FBI, neo-Nazi cult leader?
Why choose one?
With that, the man turned on his heel and strode away, his tailored suit jacket flapping in the breeze. Bastian and I stood frozen, watching his retreating figure until he disappeared around a corner. I let out a shaky breath, my heart pounding in my chest. Bastian turned to me, his eyes wide with concern.
Hyperborea? That's the Nazi version of Atlantis. The myth that served as a pretext for their ideological platform and genocidal tendencies. How is that related to the Voynich?
I shook my head, trying to process what had just happened. I don't know, but whatever it is, we must be getting close to something big, something they desperately want to keep hidden. Bastian nodded grimly, his jaw set with determination.
Then we keep digging,
he said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. I managed a small smile, drawing strength from his unwavering support. Damn straight, I said, squaring my shoulders. Let's get back to work. As we flagged down a cab and sped off to the airport, I was certain we were heading into something more dangerous than either of us could possibly imagine.